Right now, while you're going about your day, there's a number ticking up on the other side of the world that could quietly decide what your mortgage costs next year. Whether the prices that already feel insane get worse. And almost nobody in America is talking about it. It's not inflation. It's not the housing market. It's not even Washington for once. It's a bond market in Japan. Because what's happening over there is about to reach all the way into your wallet, and the people who get it early are going to be a lot better off than the people who find out the hard way. So here's the deal in plain English. For 30 years, Japan has been running a magic trick. After its economy crashed in the early 90s, Japan got desperate. So it did something no major country had ever really tried. It cut interest rates to zero and just left them there. For decades, it printed staggering amounts of money. It had its central bank quietly buy up its own government's debt to keep the whole thing standing. The message to the world was basically, money is free here, and it always will be. Borrow all you want, don't sweat the bill. And it worked, for a while. Japan piled up the biggest debt load of any advanced country on Earth, more than twice the size of its entire economy, and got away with it. Because when borrowing is free, you can paper over anything. But free money forever was always a fantasy. And in 2026, reality finally walked through the door. For years, Japan could borrow money for 30 years and pay almost nothing for it. Not anymore. In January, the interest rate on Japan's 30-year bond hit the highest level in its entire history, nearly 3.9%. Its 10-year rate jumped to 2.8%, something Japan hadn't seen since 1997. That's a 29-year high. I know, 2.8% doesn't sound scary to an American. We'd kill for a 2.8% mortgage. But that's the trap. When a country owes as much as Japan does and built its whole system on rates being basically zero, even a small jump is a body blow. Their cost of paying off that mountain of debt is suddenly exploding, and it's still climbing. Now here's the question that actually matters to you. Why should somebody in Texas or Ohio care what Japan pays on its debt? Because of where all that cheap money went, and the answer is, a lot of it came here. When money is almost free to borrow in one country, big investors do something slick. They borrow a mountain of it in Japan for next to nothing. Then they take that money and buy stuff that actually pays. American stocks, US government bonds, real estate, crypto. They keep the difference as profit. It even has a name. They call it the carry trade. And for decades, it pumped a quiet river of cheap Japanese cash into markets all over the world, including the ones holding up your retirement account. That river is now running backwards. As Japan's interest rates climb, that whole money machine stops working. Japanese investors can finally earn a solid return at home, safely, in their own currency. So they're pulling their money back. And everybody who borrowed cheap yen to bet on everything else now has to sell those bets to pay back loans that get pricier by the month. You want to know what that looks like? You don't have to guess. It already happened. In the summer of 2024, Japan raised rates by a tiny amount, barely a nudge, and it lit a fuse. Japan's stock market fell more than 12% in a single day. Markets all over the world went into a tailspin. Hundreds of billions of dollars gone in a matter of hours. And that was from a baby step. The pressure stacking up right now is bigger than it was then. So here's exactly how this lands on your street. Japan isn't just some player in the US economy. Japan is the single biggest foreign owner of America's debt. Period. Their banks and pension funds hold somewhere around $1.1 to $1.2 trillion in US treasuries. That's more than China. More than anybody on the planet. Now think about what that means. America spends way more than it takes in, so it has to keep borrowing, constantly selling new debt and praying somebody shows up to buy it. For decades, Japan was the reliable buyer who always showed up. But now, with their own bond market on fire, those Japanese institutions are starting to head for the door. In just the first 3 months of 2026, they dumped nearly $30 billion of US Treasuries, the fastest selling in about 4 years, and it got faster every single month. Right now, that's a small piece of what they own, but the direction is the whole story. America's most dependable lender is turning into a seller, right when America needs lenders the most. And when a giant buyer walks away, US bond prices drop, which shoves interest rates up. One major Wall Street estimate says Japan pulling back alone could push the key US interest rate up by 0.5%. Let me translate that out of finance speak. That's the exact number your mortgage rate, your car loan, your credit card, and every business loan in the country are tied to. It goes up, your cost of living and borrowing goes up with it. And Uncle Sam's own interest bill, already one of the single biggest expenses in the entire federal budget, gets even heavier, which means more borrowing, which makes it worse. This isn't a someday thing. The US 10-year rate is already near its highest in over a year. The 30-year is back above 5%. It's already happening. And this is the part that should actually worry you. America isn't built for this anymore. For about 40 years, America had a cheat code. Every time things got scary, a crash, a recession, a crisis, the Federal Reserve could just cut interest rates. Borrowing got cheap, everybody refinanced, the markets bounced back, and we moved on. It worked so many times that we all just started assuming it always would. But that cheat code only works if rates have room to drop and inflation stays quiet. Look around, neither one is a sure thing right now. Prices are still stubborn. The national debt is gigantic and growing. And the cheap money that always rode to the rescue is drying up worldwide, right as America is leaning on borrowing harder than ever. The one move we've used to save ourselves in every crisis since the 80s might be stuck in the holster this time. And there's a quieter problem underneath all of it. On paper, Americans have never looked richer. House values up, stocks up, 401ks up. But a lot of that is just paper. Your house being worth more doesn't help if moving means trading a 3% mortgage for a 7% one. Your retirement account might look great while it's secretly riding on a handful of tech stocks, all moving in lockstep. Meanwhile, credit card debt is at a record high and millions of people are borrowing just to cover groceries and gas. It looks like wealth. For a lot of families, it feels like running in place. So put it all together. A country more hooked on cheap borrowing than ever, losing its biggest lender, with its emergency rescue tool maybe jammed, all at the same time. That's the setup. That's why the people who watch this stuff for a living are getting quiet and nervous. Now I'm going to be straight with you, because you deserve it. Nobody can tell you the exact day anything breaks. People have been calling for Japan's collapse for 30 years and been wrong every single time. Japan is rich, it's sophisticated, and a slow, boring, orderly adjustment is genuinely possible. Anyone promising you a guaranteed crash next Tuesday is trying to sell you something. I'm not doing that. But the risk is real, it's building, and this is the kind of thing that moves slow and quiet, right up until the day it doesn't. The bond market has a long track record of screaming a warning long before the stock market admits anything's wrong. And right now, over in Japan, it is screaming louder than it has in a generation. Here's the only thing I really want you to walk away with. The link between a boring bond auction in Tokyo and the rate on your next mortgage is real, even though practically nobody is connecting those dots for you. The cheap money that quietly held the whole game together for decades is starting to flow the other way. America spent 40 years betting the easy money would always be there to catch us. We're about to find out what happens when it isn't.